What's going on, you guys? So Steven Espinoza, one of the key players in putting this Crawford Spence fight together, comes out with his first statement since hearing about Crawford pulling out of negotiations to face David Averesian. And yeah, I mean, to say the very least, we was all blindsided in hearing this news, right? And it seems like everybody in boxing has something to say about it. Everybody in boxing is still talking about it. Everybody but Terrence, Bud, Crawford. But Steven Espinoza had quite a bit to say. And yeah, he was quoted saying this: "I say it was a surprise. It was completely. It's fair to say that our side felt blindsided by the whole thing. I know it took a long time, and it was taking a long time, but I thought we were making progress, and I certainly didn't expect to have the rug pulled up from under us." And yeah, it was taking a very, very long time. So long that one would imagine, one would assume, one would suspect that, are they trying to age me out? What is the game here? How come we just can't get this show in a row? Why did this particular fight take so long? Then he says, the reality is there's a lot of interesting fights for Spence. The one thing we know about Errol, and he said it repeatedly, and he's backed it up, is he doesn't do tune-up fights. And like I said in my previous video about Keith Thurman being allegedly being made the next guy to fight Spence, right, by the WBC. I don't know how they leapfrogged over WBA or the IBF, who hasn't had a mandatory fight from Spence in 4 years. I'm not sure how they do it, but it's WBC, right? We beat crooks. Spence doesn't do back tune-up fights, and really he doesn't. Keith Thurman, well, he's known as Mr. Tune-Up. Then Espinoza says, so whatever he does, and it's still an open question, it's going to be a top-tier fight. It's going to be a massive fight. Maybe 147, maybe it's 54. But the reality is, the reason I don't have specifics for you is because there was no backup plan. And it seemed like there wasn't a backup plan. Some people say they really did have a backup plan. Who knows, right? All this stuff is hearsay. But Steven Espinoza, I'm not sure if that leaked audio, I'm not sure if that was him. We're not going to say it was him, but who was Spence be talking to in that manner? It seemed like he really don't know what's going on. Unless that's his way of releasing it to the people, because it was a private negotiation situation. Other than that, it seemed like he really just kind of was having his ear to the door. But they said there was no backup plan for Spence going into this thing, right? So Spence out here pretty much scrambling right now. And really, Spence, his options are likely mandatory type options, but they are really good options. So if he decides to stay at 147 for 2 more fights, one of these guys, whether it's Boots, Keith, or Stanionis, then he go into a fight with Crawford. But it's all on Spence now if he wants to continue to make the weight. This is going to be tough, and really, realistically, it would be. Some fans may say, oh, well, Spence was ducking because, he moved up. But in reality, bro, let's be honest. We got to keep it real over here, man. We got to keep it 100 over here, bro. We keep it 100 over here. Errol Spence been at that weight for a long fucking time. He's always been considered a big welterweight. He may be at the brink of having to relieve himself from this weight class. I mean, Danny already moved up again. So, yeah, I think it's been about time for Spence to move up. But, yeah, let me continue. There was no point where Errol was interested in having a what-if conversation about what happened if the fight falls apart. It wasn't on the radar. There are certainly interesting fights out there. You have Keith Thurman, you have Boots, and Stanionis, and others. There's no interest in talking about anything other than Crawford. So we want to regroup and get him, Spence, in there. So they want to regroup. And like I told you guys, this is what I've been said this shit. Fans were like, oh, they was too worried about what Crawford was doing. What is Spence going to do? He needs to fight in December too. Right? That's what I was saying. Come on, man. This shit ain't hard to do. Spence needs to fight, stay busy too. The negotiations took too long. All right, fuck it. We go redo this thing in 2023. But right now, we need to make sure Spencer gets a fight. And let's be honest, let's make sure it's a fight that we sure he has a higher percentage chance of winning, so we can go for the big one. Then he says he doesn't want to be stagnant for very much longer. I think he'll get back moving. And look, I'm still hopeful we can put the Crawford fight back together, said Espinoza. So they still the Crawford fight is still on the table, people. right? You know, and this is why your boy Bushido wasn't tripping. Because I know this. I know these guys want that fight, bro. I know these guys want that fight. You know, it's just they wouldn't let them live it down if these dudes never fought, bro. For the rest of their lives, they'll be hearing each other's names. They don't want that. They don't want that. And we heard the conversation with whoever Spence was talking to. Private conversation. That shit shouldn't really got leaked, in my opinion, but it got leaked. And we heard it. And Spence was, and he sounded like a guy that really wanted to fight, if I'm honest. He want that fight. That's the fight for him, right? Crawford had to do what he had to do. He had a backup plan just in case. It was smart. It was smart. He had a backup plan. And Black Prime dropped the bag on the table. I mean, it's a really good deal for Crawford. A guy who's 35 years old, who's about to be out the door. So that's a very good deal for him. Going into a Spence fight. So PBC Showtime got to get their shit together now. Because yesterday's price ain't going to be today's price for both guys. Because if Errol Spence fights Keith Thurman, who he said he really wasn't going to fight, but he may have to fight him, that'll be a pretty big fight. That'll be a big fight. It has storyline. It has everything behind it. So Espinoza gives his reaction to Crawford blindsided. I mean, let's be honest, we always pretty blindsided by this. Some people still feel some type of way about it. Others let it go. Some say good for Crawford. But at the end of the day, man, as long as we get this fight in 2023, as long as both Spence and Crawford get past all their next opponents to where they don't have no medical restrictions or anything like that, we should be cool, man. As long as we get to see these dudes fight this year and then going to the next year, we get that show we really want. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.